That sounds like we're on. Yes, they are. Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you to take your seats, please? And just a quick word for the technical team. I'm currently getting interpretation into Spanish, which is being done excellently. But if I could possibly have English, that would be ever so much easier. Ooh, or a big squeaky noise in my ear. Which is the channel? Number 2. Now it's fine. Okay. Okay. Oh, great. That's English, is it? So, how are we doing for time? It's 10 to 7. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As it says in the program, my name is Mark Rogerson. I'm a communications consultant based here in Brussels, working with many of the European institutions and frequently with the committee, and it's great fun to be with you here. As you see this evening, we have not so much a round table as a square platform, and what we're going to do is invite 5 speakers, 3 of whom you've seen before this afternoon, and 2 others who I'm told are on their way from the European Parliament even at this moment. Believe that, if you will. They're going to make pledges. We've talked a lot about the meaning of growth. We've talked a lot about the meaning of fair. We've talked a lot about the political dimension, the social dimension, the environmental dimension. And there was indeed one questioner towards the end who said, let's get concrete about this. What does it all mean in concrete terms? Well, we've got 5 speakers who are going to make pledges on the new growth model. Now, I ought to mention that the original meaning in English of making a pledge or taking the pledge was that you were going to give up alcohol completely. That's where the phrase comes from. There is a reception after this, up the stairs there. There will be food and drink on offer. So the bad news for our 5 speakers is that after they've made their pledges, you'll be very welcome to join us upstairs, but you're not allowed to have any of the wine. We've got a pledge on growth and jobs. We've got a pledge on industry. We've got a pledge on equality. We've got a pledge on a sustainable environment. And we've got a pledge on stakeholders, not shareholders. And after our speakers have made their pledges, then the floor will be open to you to ask them about them. So you can quiz them as well after they've made their pledges. Our first pledge, appropriately enough, comes from the President of the Committee of the Regions, Mercedes Bresso. Madam President, let's have the microphone. Madam President, the floor is yours.
Merci.
Oh, no, you've got to go up into the middle of the ring here, yeah. There's nowhere to hide while you make your pledge.
D'accord. Alors, je ne sais pas si je peux faire des promesses, mais ce que je veux dire, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, au débat de cet après-midi et aussi un débat qu'on a eu ce matin avec des collègues et amis tunisiens, on a chaque fois entendu dire que le problème principal, c'est l'emploi pour les gens. C'est naturellement l'emploi est en quelque mesure lié à la croissance, mais d'une façon qui n'est pas du tout évidente, surtout dans notre économie. Alors moi, je crois que après les discussions qu'on a eues cet après-midi, on peut dire qu'un autre modèle de croissance doit vouloir dire créer, d'abord investir, trouver la manière d'investir dans des modifications profondes de notre économie. Donc, on ne peut pas arrêter la croissance dans la situation actuelle parce qu'on ne pourrait pas changer tout ce qui doit être changé, mais fléchir nos investissements, nos engagements dans 2 directions fondamentales. Une, pour revenir avec les modifications nécessaires à une société dans laquelle on assure les services et la qualité de vie pour les gens. Et tout ça comporte, c'est des emplois. Je crois que tenir ensemble production et services, il y a beaucoup de travail dans ce domaine, ce qui permettrait d'enraciner les emplois dans nos territoires. La possibilité, par exemple, de modifier la manière de transport, non seulement avec le transport public, mais aussi avec les systèmes de location de voitures, de vélos, d'instruments, c'est-à-dire petit à petit utiliser les biens, les services des biens et non nécessairement la propriété, peut modifier la manière de produire, l'enraciner plus fortement dans nos pays, éviter le problème de la délocalisation des activités de production. Deuxième question, l'environnement. De nouveau, si, comme ça a été décidé, peut-être que tout le monde n'est pas d'accord, mais déjà en Allemagne, la décision a été prise d'abandonner le nucléaire. Dans d'autres pays, dans mon pays, il va y avoir un référendum et ce sera prise, la décision. Dans beaucoup d'autres pays, ça a été déjà pris, ou en tout cas, on commence à affronter la question. Même dans la nucléariste France, on commence à l'affronter. Et sur les autres questions d'environnement, lutte au changement climatique, utilisation meilleure des ressources, non seulement de celles énergétiques, on est tous d'accord. Ça signifie aussi des activités qui sont enracinées dans les territoires et qui ne peuvent pas être délocalisées et qui produisent des emplois. Alors, la question que nous devons nous poser, pour être concret, c'est comment fléchir des capitaux que nous avons, parce que nos pays ont des accumulations du passé importantes, comment on peut les orienter vers ces modifications profondes de la production de biens et de services qui serviraient à enraciner les emplois dans nos territoires et à réaliser un vrai changement. Je crois que c'est possible, c'est techniquement possible et tout le débat qu'on a eu cet après-midi sur les indicateurs devrait nous permettre de démontrer les avantages de ces modifications dans le domaine du social et dans le domaine de l'environnement, des avantages non seulement pour la création d'emplois, mais aussi pour une qualité globale de vie. Je crois que pour beaucoup de gens, actuellement, la demande, et on l'a entendu tout l'après-midi, la demande de services, bonne école pour les enfants, services pour les femmes qui ont des enfants petits, services pour les personnes âgées, services pour les personnes handicapées, services en général pour nous tous, sont des demandes plus fortes qu'une augmentation ultérieure d'une quantité de biens qui parfois sont devenus un peu excessifs. Mais ça peut créer de la croissance et des emplois. Ce n'est pas une décroissance, c'est une autre croissance qualitative du point de vue social et environnemental. Je crois qu'on peut lier emploi, que c'est mon sujet de ce soir, emploi et croissance autre, entre guillemets. Merci.
Hang on. You're not allowed to escape yet. No, come on. No. I'm going to. First of all, no, come on.
Okay, sorry.
Just because you're president, that doesn't mean that they can't ask you questions.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you the first question: is what do you see as the role for the Committee of the Regions in all that? It's a great picture you've painted. Yes. Where does the committee fit in?
Ok. Cet après-midi, ça a été déjà dit par Michel Delbar et par beaucoup d'autres. Je crois que d'abord, ces changements ne peuvent s'enraciner au niveau local. C'est-à-dire, si on doit modifier la manière de se transporter, réaliser des services pour la petite enfance, changer la production énergétique, tout ça se fait au niveau local. C'est très important que les fonds européens soient clairement disponibles pour toutes les régions, et ça c'est un problème qui n'est pas moindre parce que la discussion, comme vous savez, est en cours sur la politique de cohésion. Donc il y a de disponibilité pour tout le monde, qu'on les investisse de manière à avoir un effet multiplicateur très, très fort, de valeur ajoutée très, très forte. Et je crois que c'est à nous aussi, c'est au comité des régions, mais surtout à nos collectivités régionales et locales, convaincre nos citoyens que le changement est possible, mais il est possible si tout le monde est d'accord. C'est-à-dire si toutes les forces, vous savez, c'est un champ de force, si toutes les forces poussent dans la même direction. Et ça, c'est à nous, parce que c'est au niveau local que le changement se fait. Disons, il faut avoir des objectifs. C'est d'ailleurs la formule typique de tout le monde environnementaliste, penser global et agir local. Donc, nous sommes ici à penser, mais après, l'action est celle qui nous concerne plus particulièrement. Merci.
Okay. We are the engine of the change. Good line. There's time for a couple of quick questions. If anybody would like to ask Madame Bresso a question about what she said just now or what she said earlier on this afternoon, you don't often get the chance. Yes, gentleman there. And beautiful lady with microphone as well.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Aurelio Velando. Soy ciudadano del mundo y yo creo que posiblemente... ¿Sí? Ya puedo. Bueno, yo soy ciudadano del mundo y yo creo que el sentimiento de ciudadanía del mundo o de ciudadanía europea facilitaría todo el tema que estamos planteando a nivel regional y a niveles locales, porque si no difícilmente los fondos estructurales o unos países u otros evidentemente se opondrán porque dirán que alguien sale beneficiado y alguien sale perjudicado. Si tenemos el sentimiento europeo, quien sale beneficiada es la Unión Europea y si no se hace, quien sale perjudicada es la Unión Europea. ¿Qué opinas?
Je suis tout à fait d'accord avec vous qu'il faut se sentir citoyen naturellement de son pays, de sa ville, de son pays, de l'Europe et du monde. Et que ces 3 ou 4 niveaux ne doivent pas être en contradiction. Je pense que quand on parle de modèles différents de croissance, c'est pas beau parce que c'est un peu vieillot comme style, mais disons d'un autre type de croissance, on parle aussi d'une croissance qui est fondée sur une intelligente utilisation de nos propres ressources. Et donc, ce que on doit éviter, c'est de, comme on a fait dans le passé, de piquer toutes les ressources du monde entier pour un modèle de développement que, comme tout le monde l'a rappelé, n'est pas répétable à l'infini sur échelle monde. Proposer un modèle qui utilise un maximum de ressources internes du pays, avec naturellement des échanges, mais qui réduit l'empreinte écologique des Européennes, veut dire aussi ouvrir des possibilités qui ne sont pas seulement des espaces, disons, sur la Terre, mais qui sont aussi des technologies intéressantes. D'ailleurs, je crois qu'en ce moment, l'Europe, pour des raisons qu'on n'a pas le temps de discuter, et certains pays en développement sont ceux qui sont le plus intéressés aux technologies vertes. Je crois justement parce que beaucoup se rendent compte que c'est la seule manière de créer des espaces de développement à échelle monde, non seulement pour certains pays. Donc je crois qu'être citoyen du monde veut dire d'abord rappeler que l'égalité sociale, la justice sociale, la création d'emplois, mais aussi la réduction des inégalités des revenus est un combat qui est mondial et qui doit valoir pour nous et pour les autres, retourner, disons, à l'idée quand même, le mouvement ouvrier a été un mouvement internationaliste parce qu'il voulait que tout le monde puisse avoir des opportunités, pas seulement dans un pays. Donc, il faut retourner à ça, mais il faut l'élargir à d'autres questions comme les questions environnementales. Mais au fond, c'est nos racines, celle d'être citoyen du monde et de considérer que les autres hommes sont nos frères et non nos ennemis, parce que ces batailles contre à l'intérieur du processus de globalisation, de délocalisation, sont en train de rendre les hommes ennemis les uns vers les autres. Ça, ce n'est pas possible. Je crois que c'est à nous de le rappeler.
Madam Bresso, thank you very much indeed. Please have a seat. Just before I call on our next speaker, who will be Daniella Kolbe, just to welcome our two MEP guests who've walked over from the Parliament. Thank you, ladies, for taking time out from a busy schedule. We'll be with you shortly. Now, our next speaker, Daniella Kolbe, from whom we heard earlier, of course. Fair growth means equal treatment and fair chances for all.
Thank you very much. I am German, so I have to speak in English. I'm sorry for that. If you don't like my English, you have to switch to Spanish or French.
It sounds lovely from here.
Thank you very much. I have 5 minutes, so I want to give you 5 brief points about equality and growth. And I think equality is a crucial point concerning growth. First point is in the last years we were growing unequal, and this is a very big problem for our societies. It's injustice. We have less chances for our young people. We have crime, adipositas, and so on. And so we have to grow equally, more equally. That's my first point. So we have to talk more about taxation, and we have to talk about wages and strong trade unions. Second point is talking about equality is women's rights. We still live in a society where women are less paid, so we have to take strong action into this subject. Third point, so I'm very brief to have more time for my fifth point. Third point is migration. We live in a Europe that will, in the long run, need migration, and on the other hand, we face a Europe where migrants are discriminated in a level we can't accept. So if we talk about growth and equality, we have to talk about the rights of migrants in our societies. So that there's no easy answer to that. I know it because we have in Germany a very strange discussion about migration and integration at the moment, but I think it's a crucial point for the future of Europe. So I'm coming to my fourth point, equality and green growth, because I think that's the big point for Social Democrats and Socialists in the future. If we all agree that we have to grow in a green way, in a ecological good way, then we will do that. It's no point to growing ecologically, but to grow ecologically and social fair. That's the point. That's the point for Social Democrats and Socialists, in my view, to make it possible for everybody to take part in a green society, to make it affordable to go by bus or train, to make it affordable to have energy, to make it affordable to have good food, and so on. So I think that's the big point for Socialists and Social Democrats for the future. And another big point is the fifth point, equality and growth. We always discuss it on a European level. This is a bit too small because we have only one planet. So maybe we should talk about equality, growth in a global level, and then we get another big questions to answer, because we talk about quality of growth, and we should do this to provide the possibility to other countries to grow green. Because if other countries grow in the way we did in the past, we actually need the third, fourth, fifth planet, because we have too little resources and Yes, so there are big things to do. I have given you 5 points. Maybe we have a small discussion on that.
All right. Just before, think about any questions you'd like to ask. Just while they're thinking about questions, I'd like to ask you a question, which is, does there inevitably have to be a contradiction between equality and green? I was really interested to the way you posed it. I always think of green being something, green economics, green society being something that's accessible to all. You obviously think that it just isn't necessarily like that.
Well, actually, there are very good points about green growth, because you get good jobs, well-paid jobs, you save our environment. But I think if we grow green in the short run, we will see that prices will go up. Prices on energy, prices on mobility, prices on good food. And I think that there's a social question in there.
And that will exclude some people, inevitably.
Sure.
Okay, questions for Daniella? Any questions for Daniella? 5 very good points there, at least 5 possibilities for a question. Yes, gentleman over there.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Cohen. I'm a member of the Socialist Group in the Committee of the Regions. Now, I liked your presentation because you talked with our language, in the sense that it is important that whenever we discuss growth in the sense of talking about people. Because after all, if we are talking about fair growth, then we are talking about a fair share. And this relates me to the point that, in my opinion, it seems that the European Union strategy has failed. Failed in the sense that we talk a lot about keeping the 3% deficit. This resulted in the cost of job losses. And now we're talking on the other side. We're talking about that we want more and more jobs. So actually, when we talk about growth, what do we actually mean? Do we mean growth only relating to the economic side, in the sense that we do want member states to keep up with what the EU is stating, that they should keep the deficit below the 3%, and ignoring the fact that most of the actions that has been taken has resulted in losses of jobs. On the other side, we are talking...
So your question is in danger of being longer than her speech.
So my question is, it seems that we are reverting now what the EU has decided before, and now we're talking about more actions regarding more jobs?
Would you like to make a quick comment on that?
Well, that's the big point. Whether or not we want to growth, no matter what it costs. We did that in the past. We wanted growth, no matter what it costed, jobs, environmental destruction, and so on. And we are now on the point to decide what way we want to go. And I think we have to discuss what growth do we want, and to decide that there is growth we don't want if it, for example, destroys jobs or leads to dumping of wages or stuff like that.
Daniella, thank you very much indeed. Please take a seat. I know you have to hurry off to a train or a plane quite soon. Our next pledge, fair growth means a stronger industry, and that's Vicente Alvarez Areces, from whom we heard earlier, and from whom we will now hear again. And the microphone's just there, sir.
Buenas tardes. Hoy hemos participado, antes de este debate, en una ponencia donde hablábamos de ese nuevo modelo de crecimiento y hablábamos de cómo medir un crecimiento que no sea exclusivamente cuantitativo, basado en el PIB. Ahora se me pide que opine muy brevemente, en unos escasos minutos, sobre la industria. Es decir, la importancia de la industria en el crecimiento sostenible. Y yo creo que la actividad industrial es fundamental, precisamente para que el crecimiento no sea solo cuantitativo, sino también justo y sostenible en Europa. Les podría poner como ejemplo algunos datos que tengo sobre el sector industrial en mi país y en mi región. El sector industrial, sin duda, es uno de los principales núcleos en los que se articula el cambio de modelo productivo que queremos hacer en Europa. En la economía española especialmente, porque saben ustedes que la economía española se caracteriza porque tiene un desempleo mucho más elevado que otros países europeos. Y en este sentido es un sector muy representativo del cambio de modelo. La industria supone internacionalización, ya que de ella salen el 90% de las exportaciones españolas de bienes y el 60% de las exportaciones conjuntas de bienes y servicios. O sea que estamos hablando de un sector importantísimo, motriz. La industria lleva innovación, ya que el 44% del I+D realizado en el sector privado español se lleva a cabo en el sector industrial. Y también lidera en productividad al resto de los sectores económicos, siendo su productividad un 10% superior a la del conjunto de la economía. Y ahora, en el empleo, porque saben ustedes que el empleo es uno de los grandes objetivos europeos, particularmente en España. Y en la calidad del empleo, que también es muy importante, porque en Europa hay una precarización, una reducción de los salarios que provoca grandes desigualdades. Pero el sector industrial supone empleo con más calidad, ya que la temporalidad en el sector es solo del 15%, muy por debajo del 24% del conjunto de la economía. O sea, que estamos en un sector no solo motriz en la economía, sino que provoca efectos beneficiosos en la reducción de la temporalidad e incluso de los salarios. También quisiera decirles algunas otras cuestiones, muy rápidamente también. El rápido avance científico y tecnológico en áreas como las energías limpias, la biotecnología, la nanotecnología, los nanomateriales también, las nuevas tecnologías de información y comunicación, el desarrollo aeroespacial, por ejemplo, también, son un desafío real para el tejido productivo y el mundo laboral. Pero, ojo, tiene peligros. Los peligros es que si solo creemos en un crecimiento cuantitativo, todas estas tecnologías operan en la mejora de la competitividad, pero pueden producir gravísimos desajustes laborales y una pérdida de igualdad, de modo que haya empresas que pueden tener una gran competitividad, enormes beneficios y reduzcan o expulsen miles de empleos de las empresas. Y ese no es un modelo de crecimiento que podamos aceptar. En España tenemos recientes ejemplos, por ejemplo, el gran operador multinacional Telefónica, pues que tiene miles de millones de beneficio y en cambio expulsa miles de trabajadores. No podemos aceptar que los crecimientos sean cuantitativos o que las tecnologías solo influyan en la competitividad en un sentido de crecimiento y no de beneficio para la inmensa mayoría. Los retos superan también la capacidad en el sector industrial de las pequeñas y medianas empresas. Tenemos que revisar políticas conservadoras, el laissez-faire, que nosotros no podemos aceptar. Tenemos que implantar una política europea fuerte y cooperativa. Las regulaciones inteligentes y las inversiones a nivel europeo, nacional y regional son necesarias para garantizar las mejoras en ese marco de industria europea. Y debemos prestar atención en particular también a la mejora de la eficiencia energética y de recursos, también al fortalecimiento de nuestros sistemas educativos, la relación entre universidades, centros de transferencia tecnológica y las empresas, porque son infraestructuras que debemos de fomentar y no dejarlas exclusivamente en manos del mercado. Nosotros tenemos que garantizar también, en algunos casos, infraestructuras de alta calidad en todo el territorio de la Unión Europea para un nuevo desarrollo industrial. Y no me estoy refiriendo a las infraestructuras que regulan los fondos de cohesión, o los fondos FEDER. Infraestructuras tecnológicas para provocar en toda Europa que mecanismos como, por ejemplo, todo lo que significa la evacuación de energías, la operabilidad entre fronteras o lo que significa, por ejemplo, la introducción de la banda ancha en el medio rural, puedan ser potenciadas porque el mercado no lleva la banda ancha a las zonas donde no hay vecinos. O el mercado tiende a reducir también muchas veces las políticas energéticas exclusivamente a los países. Esto es lo que yo creo que tienen que ser las bases de un nuevo modelo industrial.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. A quick question. Again, there'll be time for you to ask questions, so think what questions you'd like to ask on industry. Let me ask you this. Imagine you're talking to an industrialist, the chief of a big company, and he says, look, I understand all this stuff about fairness and growth and so on, but my company has to keep growing. I've got the banks breathing down my neck, I've got the shareholders breathing down my neck, the competition want to move into my markets. I don't have any choice. How do you reply to him?
Pues le respondería que en Europa tenemos unas políticas que están diseñadas en la estrategia 2020 y en Europa dice que el conocimiento tiene que ser la primera prioridad, la inteligencia, tiene que haber un modelo energético distinto, tiene que haber industrias más competitivas y una economía más competitiva, pero dice algo muy importante, si creemos en ello, no solo los socialistas, y es que tiene que ser una Europa inclusiva. Está en nuestro tratado, la cohesión social y territorial. Y entonces no podemos concebir que ese tema inclusivo desaparezca. O sea, la creación de una industria más competitiva, si va con una reducción de empleo o del bienestar social, no debemos aceptarla en modo alguno, no solo por criterios de tipo ético o ideológico, sino porque eso es ineficiencia para la economía. Los bajos salarios, las desigualdades, evitan que los ciudadanos dejen de consumir. Si dejan de consumir, hay muchas empresas que van a tener graves problemas. Y entonces, si las empresas tienen graves problemas, se produce un desempleo y no se produce un crecimiento que provoque cohesión. Los socialistas tenemos que tener muy en cuenta que no podemos aceptar que el PIB mida exclusivamente el crecimiento de los países, porque dentro de los países hay enormes desigualdades. Y si hay desigualdades, no solamente es falta de ética y falta de justicia social y de solidaridad, sino que es también ineficiencia económica. Cuando millones de personas tienen poca capacidad de consumo, tienen que acudir al endeudamiento, provocan en la economía graves efectos adversos. Y por eso a ese empresario, si es inteligente, tendrá que tener un compromiso social corporativo, que no solamente es crecer a cualquier precio, sino que le debe importar mucho lo que pasa con las familias, con sus trabajadores, con los que están viviendo y produciendo en esa empresa.
Okay, social responsibility, good line. Yes, question right behind you there. And we've got a microphone just coming.
Yeah, I would be coming back to your question, actually, because if I would hear that, being a businessman, I would answer, listen, I have my shareholders, and if I will keep these people at my company, I will go bankrupt. So more people will lose their jobs. Yeah, it's wonderful what you say as a politician, but as a businessman, I'm just putting myself in the shoes of a businessman, it wouldn't be acceptable, because we live in a competitive world. There's a competition from China, India, other regions, and there's two choices, to let 50% of the workforce on the street or to let 100% on the street. That's it.
You've got an unconvinced businessman.
Sí, pero ese modelo es el que ya hemos experimentado con el neoliberalismo salvaje.
Oh, we're not getting the English translation out of Spanish.
Sí, la pregunta, bueno, dice si puede repetir la pregunta. Bueno, yo creo que se está refiriendo a que las empresas tienen accionistas, que hay unas exigencias de beneficios, de rentabilidad, si no la competencia les puede pues eliminar. Bueno, yo diría que ese es el modelo que hemos vivido hasta ahora, el que ha provocado esta crisis. Ese es el modelo que nos ha llevado a la situación actual. Porque esta crisis no viene de Europa, esta crisis viene del fracaso de las teorías neoliberales que han provocado precisamente esas dinámicas. Y además, cuando la gente con bajos salarios no tenían dinero para adquirir bienes de consumo, han hecho un gran engaño. Les han dicho que todos pueden consumir, que acudan al crédito. Y entonces se han endeudado. Y después de endeudarse se ha visto que no podían pagar sus deudas. Y las entidades financieras no tenían capacidad para dar respuesta. Y eso se ha contaminado a la economía real. Y la economía real la hemos vivido no solo en Estados Unidos, sino en Europa. Y esos rendimientos exagerados, porque no solamente piden beneficios, es que piden tasas de beneficios tan enormes que para conseguirlos tienen que reducir costes y tienen que reducir equidad. Y eso es lo que ha provocado precisamente que hoy millones de personas en Europa se hayan quedado sin trabajo y millones de personas tengan unos salarios cada vez menores que provocan desigualdades inaceptables. Y cuando los ciudadanos miran a los gobiernos, no miran su signo político. Dicen, oiga, miren, yo no soy el culpable de las tensiones que originan los mercados, pero tampoco puedo ser el que pague exclusivamente estas tensiones. Y entonces ocurre que se produce la desafección, se produce el abandono, porque todos los gobiernos son castigados del signo político que sea. Y no podemos hacer una Europa que no sea inclusiva, porque la Estrategia 2020 nos dice que tiene que haber solidaridad, y el Tratado de Europa, que costó mucho trabajo introducir el concepto de cohesión territorial, tiene que hacer que los territorios tengan todas sus oportunidades. Para provocar políticas de cohesión social, de cohesión territorial, que en el fondo es solidaridad entre las personas y entre los territorios, es imposible asumir esa teoría neoliberal de beneficios cada vez más cuantiosos sin tener en cuenta lo que está en la empresa, el elemento de producción. Bien, es verdad que si una empresa no tiene beneficios, evidentemente tiene que tomar medidas. Pero para esas medidas, evidentemente, hay un tratamiento digno a través de las organizaciones que representan a los trabajadores.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, sir. Thank you. Now I'm going to call on the first of our two MEP guests, Marita Ulvskog. And if I could have the microphone. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, I'll speak English, although I'm a Swedish member of the European Parliament. I'm using the language we use in the Parliament, and that is bad English. I suppose that when being so late, everything has already been said. I'll start by saying that fair growth, green growth, yes, there are lots of possibilities in a program with growth in it. At the same time, there are lots of problems today for us as political and social movement. We have lost voters, supporters, members, activists, because we have not yet explained what globalization is about. And we have lost voters, members, activists when we are talking about green growth, because we haven't explained what that means to them. Many of our core voters, not the younger ones, but of our middle-aged core voters in the industry, for example, they see upon themselves as part of a system, of a society, of a growth discussion that makes people to winners or losers, and when they are always on the loser side. And I think that we have had a problem, and we will have a problem to convince them that green growth is something they can be winner in. But if we shall do that, we have to be very concrete. Let me give you just one example. I think that official statistics says that we have 191 million buildings within the European Union. Most of them are not sufficiently isolated, which means that we put lots of expensive energy into them, but we lose a lot of the energy on the way to those buildings and also when we are heating them. You could say that 191 million buildings, that's very, very many jobs. There's a lot of jobs if there was someone who decided that we all together now invest in making those buildings into smart energy buildings. We won't have energy systems, energy distribution systems, and buildings that can't be resource efficient. And there would be lots of work for constructors, for construction workers, for industry supporting the construction sector. That could be one way of talking about green growth and green jobs. But when we use that term just like that, I think that the signal is this is a Green Party issue, not a social democratic issue. I think that we must be better on being very, very precise when we tell people about what we want to achieve. Smart growth, green growth, that is about resource efficiency. That is about equality, yes, like the woman said before, presenting fair growth. It's about equality, it's about the efficiency, it's about recycling even. It's about using the raw materials in the industry several times. It's about perhaps, I'm not sure on this, but perhaps sometimes use the taxation system. Not in a way that we discriminate industry. Absolutely not, because industry is so important for building also the ground so that we can afford a service sector. But taxation that is a driving force for energy efficiency and resource efficiency. It's controversial, and it's absolutely controversial among our voters, those we still have. But we have to think in those terms, and we have to argue for them, and we have to tell the story about smart growth and green growth. That means that there are no winners and losers from start. And in the end, if we don't can manage with this transition into smart green growth, then we know absolutely for sure that there will be losers, and those will be the one who are most vulnerable, those who are unemployed, those who has a bad education, those living in parts of Europe or parts of the world where the struggle usually is to survive for the day, not having the long-term perspective that they want to have a good life. And that is our obligation to challenge ourselves into being as good as social democrats and socialists, that we can explain this for people. Without green growth, smart growth, there will be no long-term development. There will be even more of those very short market movements that is deciding about future. And shall we achieve what we want to achieve? I'm absolutely convinced that, as is said in the program for this seminar, that we need the involvement. People must be involved to do things and be invited. You are using a very good expression, citizens going from being shareholders to being stakeholders. And that is what the trade unions and also the social democratic parties could do if we are good enough. So that is the challenge for us.
Thank you very much. Let me ask you a question about, you were talking about globalization a moment ago, and you said basically we're not getting the story across about globalization. People don't understand globalization. I reckon for most people, globalization equals my job goes to some bloke in Korea who does the same thing for €2 a week. If that's not globalization, what is it?
Well, that is part of globalization, but there is only that story. We have it in our group in the parliament when we are discussing free trade agreements. And sometimes we also adjust our decisions according to that, because that is one truth. Absolutely. But if we all together put money from the budget in our member states, from the European budget, into investments in energy distributions, in renewables, in infrastructure, binding Europe together, in all those things we could do instead of just squeezing the budgets until we end up in a Greek situation. If we could do that, if we could win that fight, that is going on every day in every parliament, I believe, between progressive forces and conservative forces. If we could, well, come closer at least in that discussion, if we could win them sometimes, then we would be in another situation, because then we could show that large investments in the future, of course, regulation of the finance market, of course, but also, yes, research, development, innovation together with those investments, then it would mean something totally different. It would not mean that the car industry goes to Korea. It could actually mean that we can have those open borders, this free trade system in a globalized world, if we know that there are equal, what do you say now, equal regulation, equal, we are starting at the same point. We have the same regulation. Level playing field, yes, exactly. For those producing things, for the workforce, for the that we have this field where we have equal possibilities. I think that, but it's a long way. It's a long story, and we don't tell this story in a way that people trust us in yet. We don't do it even in the Socialist group in the European Parliament.
Okay, questions from Marita. She's painted a picture of a smart green society, a low carbon society, I suspect. Questions on growth and fair growth and the environment. Well, you've had a go, but if nobody else wants to ask a question, then you can have another go. Yep, okay, sir, yes, if you want to ask a question. No? Yeah, okay, just a quick one.
Hola, he oído tu mensaje. Yo quiero hacer una pregunta global. Después de todas las intervenciones.
Yep, okay.
¿Vale? Quiero hacer una pregunta global después de todas las intervenciones. La cuestión sería la siguiente. Después de todas las intervenciones me han encantado, pero yo hago una pregunta que quede en el aire y no sé si hay respuesta o no hay respuesta. Pero para mí, las guerras, la industria, los mercados y las ciudades están hechas por hombres y para hombres.
I'm not sure I got the question. Can you please repeat it?
La pregunta es que las ciudades, las guerras, la industria y los mercados están hechos por hombres y para hombres, con lo cual un porcentaje importante de la sociedad, que son las mujeres, quedan excluidas. ¿Sí?
Oh, you speak about men, not men and women. Yes, yeah, yes.
You can hit him afterwards.
Yes. Yes, well, we are fighting back, I can say. It's interesting to see what is going on in some parts of Asia, where it started, well, 10, 15, 20 years ago with those micro loans to women. They got small amounts of money that they could invest in a sewing machine or in something, in a cow or something that gave them a start. And it was women. It was directed to women. And this has really led to growth, economic growth and human growth. And the gender gap is also not growing, but it's shrinking. And that is one example of how you can really develop human beings also through making it possible for ordinary people to invest in a very, very small, with a very small amount of money. But economic growth makes also us as human beings growing. And these women well, it's in India, in Bangladesh, in other parts of Asia, they are now crucial for the villages they are living in. They create jobs. They even export their products to other parts of the world, and some of them are very, very successful. That is a way of very concrete fight the gender gap, because it's enormous. And we know that it's enormous also in Europe. Now we have ambitions when it comes to the employment rate in Europe. That's an important part of the EU 2020 strategy. And if we shall achieve those goals, then it's absolutely necessary that the employment rate among women are higher. But we will never do that if women has to stay home until their children are old enough, if we don't have a daycare system for the children that is of high quality. It starts there. Then it's a long story and it's a long way to go. But representing Sweden, I can say that, well, we have come not half the way, but almost. And it's with quotas, yes. It's with daycare. It's with elderly care that is not private but public. You are part of it, even though you are poor. You don't pay for it. You pay your taxes, and the tax system is, although it has changed with the conservative government now in Sweden, but the tax rate is according to how much you earn. And that is equality. Equality in practice.
Okay. Marita, thank you very much indeed. And finally, our second member of the European Parliament guest, Anni Podimata, on fair growth, shareholders, stakeholders, not shareholders. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And if you had put the same question to me as you did to Marita, since I'm supposed to deal with financial markets, because that's what we're trying to point out when we're saying that we need a stakeholder model and not a shareholder model. I would definitely have answered that this world, the financial market world, is absolutely dominated by men, and I definitely believe that this gender imbalance is one of the major causes that led to what have happened 3 years ago. So fair growth, we need a stakeholder model, and we need a stakeholder model instead of shareholder, because we have to remember that we have to ask ourselves, why we are in favor of a fair, green model of growth. It's because we believe that the welfare of citizens, of European citizens, has to be in the center of our interest. And I'm saying this because we tend to forget during this period of time that, for example, fiscal rules and fiscal discipline, and in this occasion I have to remind you that I have to tell you that I'm a Greek member from the European Parliament, so I feel, and many citizens in Europe, not only in Greece, feel nowadays that we tend to forget that fiscal discipline and fiscal rules is not the ultimate goal. It's a tool. It's an instrument that we have to use in order to safeguard and to promote the prosperity of European citizens, their fair right to have jobs, to have social justice, to have the benefits of a welfare state. So I think that a lesson that we can learn and that we should have learned from the current crisis, the fiscal crisis, is the immense power of the financial markets. The financial markets can decide how to influence the international markets, the prices. The financial markets can dictate, as a matter of fact, policies to the politicians nowadays. They can disregard official actors, official assessments. They can speculate in the detriment of consumers and in the detriment of real economies very often. So this is something that has to change. I think that we need to redefine an economic model by giving equal power to all the participants, all the actors. Financial markets, yes, but also producers and consumers. And if you think that this is not feasible or that this is just theory, I will give you just a concrete example as a rapporteur of the European Parliament on the report on innovative financing, and especially on the idea of introducing a financial transaction tax, especially a European financial transaction tax as a first step towards a global agreement. And I have to tell you that there was an immense, unbelievable mobility from citizens, NGOs, civil society, that have participated very actively in this debate, in the whole effort. And thanks to their mobility that lasted weeks and months, the European Parliament was able to rose at the situation and make the right decision in this field. So I think it's above all a question of political will, and a question of political will means that the politicians have to make the right decision, and this is the decision that has to be made right now, because this is the only way to put back in order, in my view, the lost balance between politics and policy and the markets. And as far as this lost balance is not re-established, I think that the politicians and the policy will be more and more disregarded in the eyes of citizens all over Europe. Thank you.
Annie, thank you very much. Let me ask you a question. You talked about rebalancing, if you like, between the financial markets and the rest of us. What do you say to those in the financial markets who argue if you impose these taxes or if you increase regulation, the market will simply move? It'll go to Singapore or Abu Dhabi, where they are not going to listen to whatever is discussed in the European Parliament and just carry on over there.
Well, as a matter of fact, this is an argumentation that I have already received during the negotiation of
Good, so you got an answer for
it. One of the main arguments, as you know, was that we should not go for a financial transaction tax at the European level, because that would lead to a competitiveness disadvantage for the financial markets in Europe and to capital flow outside the European Union. And what I'm answering to this is the following. First of all, the European citizens, the taxpayers in the north and in the south, are assuming the cost of the crisis right now because they are paying the price. This is one point. The second point is that the financial sector, who is responsible mainly for the global financial crisis and the collapse 3 years ago in the United States, is within the European Union one of the less taxed sectors. It's undertaxed. So I think it's a question of fairness to make sure that they will assume their share, they will pay their share for the cost of this crisis, and not only the European citizens. And the last point is, I think that we have the biggest financial market in Europe. I think that we need and we're worth to lead a campaign that would reorientate the financial sector back to its main goal and its main service, which is the financing of the real economy and not the speculation and the easy profit.
Okay, time for one or two very quick questions before we... yes. Okay.
Thank you very much. I have enjoyed this afternoon. Mary Freehill is my name. I'm an alternate member of the Committee of the Regions. I'm an elected member of Dublin City Council, so I'm Irish, so we have a bit in common. My question is that the world is not fair. We as socialists try to make it fair. So therefore, I really feel that, you know, I'm with you intellectually, I'm with you emotionally. But I really feel we need to be talking about our plan, our debate, how we want to go about convincing people about changing attitudes in relation to economic policy, widening the various factors that we take account of. So really, I suppose I'm saying, I think we all agree with what you're recommending, but I suppose we really want to know, how do we start going about it? What steps do we put in place?
All right.
How do we?
First step then, or first two steps, if you like.
Well, I think that what we haven't done enough, I share your concern, you know, but I believe at the same time that what we haven't done enough is to be sincere towards the citizens, towards people, and address them, explain them the nature of the problems, and ask for their support and for their mobility. As far as it concerns at least the current crisis, I think that we haven't done enough in this field, even as European socialists. There are many things on track, you know, that there are plans in order to activate the European Citizens Initiative, in order to collect signatures now for the financial transaction tax, and this is just an example. I think that there is a problem of coherence and consistency, and as a Greek member of the European Parliament, I have to tell you that the Greek government, which is a socialist government, has a lot of difficulty on how to explain to the European citizens that we have to implement policies and measures, very severe and very tough austerity measures that are totally on the other direction than our policy and our philosophy. And this is a real problem of today, of nowadays. But I think that, first of all, the change cannot happen in the national level. That's for sure. And that's why I was pointing out all this description on the situation with the financial markets. Nobody can do it alone. The only chance to change things, in my view, is at the European level. And I think that we have to combine forces, because we haven't done even that so far. I mean, people and governments and countries with difficulties, we haven't collaborated enough until now on how do we deal with our problems. And at the same time, address the citizens, be sincere to them, and ask them to be active and to participate on what we are trying to achieve.
Okay, we'll leave Greece and Ireland to compare notes on austerity programs afterwards. Last question here, sir, briefly if you could, because...
Je ne sais pas, voilà. Donc c'est Renato, le Citigroup du Parti Socialiste Européen Charleroi. Alors je vais procéder à l'envers, je vais faire très vite. La question, c'est comment conscientiser les masses populaires. Pourquoi cette question? Le groupe que nous sommes est un groupe qui est vraiment varié, qui évolue dans tous les domaines divers de la société. Nous avons pu d'ailleurs en 2008, lors du sommet du PSE de Madrid, faire une vidéo qu'on a passée en boucle à un moment donné, qui parlait justement du nouveau modèle de croissance permettant aux citoyens disons, de ne plus être pauvre à un moment donné, même quand il est travailleur, et de retrouver quelque part sa dignité. Nous avons fait ça en 4 langues, c'était très bien fait. Alors, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé depuis? Les choses ont évolué. Je vois qu'aujourd'hui, il y a toute une expertise qui s'est mise en place. En effet, je vois que je me rends bien compte, même en tant que citoyen, qu'on a visé juste ce qui s'est dit aujourd'hui. C'est juste, je ne doute pas un seul instant. Le fait est que, revenant à notre petit groupe qui est très proche, mais je vois que c'est un peu partout en Europe, surtout en Europe du Nord-Ouest, parce que c'est beaucoup plus développé. Je ferme la parenthèse. Comment conscientiser maintenant, pour être suffisamment puissant avec nos idées, comment conscientiser les masses populaires qui elles-mêmes sont déjà aujourd'hui contraintes par l'organisation sociétale néolibérale. Autrement dit, un travailleur aujourd'hui n'a plus suffisamment de temps ni même de volonté pour aller au contact et s'informer correctement. Et ça, pour des progressistes comme nous, quel que soit le niveau dans lequel nous évoluons, du politique, le transversal, le vertical, etc., eh bien, c'est ma question. Voilà. J'ai fini. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
There we are. The question is how to raise awareness. What's the answer?
Alors, en français, je peux. Je crois que par établissant notre crédibilité, ça c'est une question de clé à mon avis. Et comment on peut faire ça? À mon avis, on peut rétablir notre crédibilité. Je parle maintenant comment on peut le faire autant que progressiste, socialiste, etc. Minoritaire tout de même en Europe. Ça veut dire qu'on ne peut pas changer tout. On doit expliquer cela. Qu'aujourd'hui, la situation en Europe se présente tellement difficile parce que les forces majoritaires ont une approche, sur la sortie de la crise et sur le modèle européen, le modèle économique qu'on doit construire, qui est totalement différent de le nôtre. Et puis, commencer par petits pas qui sont concrets, petits résultats. C'est pour ça que j'ai utilisé l'exemple avec la taxe sur les transactions financières, par exemple. On doit vraiment essayer, à mon avis, essayer de produire de résultats, même si les résultats ne sont pas globaux. On peut pas, nous, dans la situation actuelle, garantir au peuple et aux citoyens européens qu'on peut changer tout d'un jour à l'autre la direction de l'Europe aujourd'hui, mais on peut leur dire, on peut leur prouver qu'il y a de petites concrètes choses qu'on peut faire jour par jour. Voilà.
Voilà, merci beaucoup.
Je vous en prie.
Efaristo.
Thank you.
That brings to an end the formal proceedings for this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My thanks to our speakers this evening. My thanks to you for your active interest and involvement. Thanks, as always, to the Committee of the Regions for organising this. It just remains for me to tell you that the buffet is up those stairs there, and to wish you bon appétit and a very good evening. Thank you.
Muy bien.
Merci.
Thanks a lot. I can
Not
take
at
that
all.
off you.
Yeah, sure.